I had a lot of stuff happen in 2016. It was like, like a quite intense year, a series of unfortunate events. So I was in quite like a bad place that year, and I feel like finger drumming was almost my escape from it. It really helped me to, I guess, get out of my head and focus on something different. And I kind of channeled a lot of energy into that. It was kind of like meditation for me. And so coming out of that in 2017, I'd been posting stuff online and started to build a following from that. And then it kind of just took over. It was one of those things where I started it with a different intention to what it ended up. I never dreamed that it would become my career being a finger drummer. But it has, and I really love it, and I really encourage anyone to try it.
Yeah. So two things. I guess one is it's really interesting and surprising to me that you bought it and then it sat in your place for like a year before you really kind of started getting into it. So I'm kind of curious about what was the impetus and what that shift was. And then the second piece around it would be around like what made you want to start sharing it, or at what point did you feel ready to share it? Were you sharing it before you were ready, etc.?
Yeah, I started sharing videos online before I was any good at doing anything. It wasn't to. I feel like social media is very different today than it was. Even then in 2016, it was very different. Even just the quality of videos that you could upload then was totally different because everyone's got these amazing phones now which have incredible cameras on them. Before, when I was using my iPhone like 6 or 7 or something, all the videos are like super grainy, like really dark. I didn't have things like lighting or anything like that. I didn't even used to show my face on camera for like a year or two before I felt confident enough to do that.
Huh.
And a lot of the videos that I used to post were just literally just practice videos. It wasn't like creating a piece and finishing it and then filming the performance and posting something that's like super high quality. It was just me practicing something and then filming it to try and remember what it was and then uploading it as like a log of videos that I can review. But yeah, the social media was a very different place back then when first started posting stuff.
Interesting. At what point were you like, maybe this will be something that I'm going to turn into something that's more of a career?
I think it was probably when I started to collaborate with brands, and I think when I got to that first like 10K followers on Instagram, and then I was working with like Native Instruments quite early on, and I'd gone down to the head office to work with them on stuff, and I think it was at that point that I was like, I might actually be able to do something with this.
Yeah, that's so cool. For somebody who's interested in learning finger drumming, because I think there's a lot of producers that have a machine or like a push or some sort of pad controller, and maybe they use it to tap things in or program, but maybe they don't use it in a performance kind of way. So what are ways, especially because you're somebody who's, has a lot of experience teaching and creating educational content, what are some of those places to start or ways that you think about approaching it for somebody who's interested in learning finger drumming specifically?
Oh, I have a new course that dropped earlier this year with Domestica, which is Introduction to Finger Drumming with Machine. That's great if you're a beginner because it kind of takes you step by step through how to set it up, how to, get your samples chopped and ready, and basic finger drumming exercises that you can do. So obviously it's a machine course, so setting up and everything's on machine. But say if you've got an MPC or a different controller, you can still follow the course as long as you know how to set up your samples and stuff. Like the exercises, you can translate to any pad controller really. But if you were looking for some more coaching or one-to-one lessons and stuff, I do that as well on my Patreon page. So you can come and do in half an hour or 1 hour lesson with me. And I can, really show you. I feel like that's maybe the best way to learn because it's kind of like, if you're learning another instrument, say like piano or guitar or whatever, I think having an actual teacher that you do sessions with can really help you because there's certain things that, an individual will do with technique that you won't really get instructed on in a video. Whereas if you have a teacher or a coach or something, then you can really have those lessons tailored to you. And I find that's maybe the easiest way to improve quickly as well. So, the students that I do one-to-one lessons with,
Mm.
everyone learns at different pace. Everyone learns at a different pace, obviously, but I find my one-to-one sessions are where I see people learn really, really quickly because it's a lot easier for me to show you how to do something, and then if you get something wrong, I can correct you quite quickly, and then progressing on to more difficult patterns and advanced stuff.
Yeah, what are those common things that you see students maybe approach with a way that's maybe not helpful?
Most of the time, I think it's technique. If you've never really played any other instruments before, there are certain things about technique that you won't really know. So a lot of the technique that I use for finger drumming, I've translated from other instruments. So I learnt piano as a kid. I'm classically trained, and a lot of that kind of technique, like hand posture, the way you hit the pads, timing, things like that, things that I've translated from playing piano to finger drumming.
Very cool. Do you still, how much piano are you still playing?
I'm kind of off and on with it, really. So, like, I still play. I was doing lessons again for a bit last year because I really wanted to learn some more jazz stuff. But this year, I bought an electric drum kit, so that's that's taken over for me at the moment with instrumentation.
That's really cool. So now you're playing like an actual kit. I don't know. I'm curious about how that impacts your finger drumming. Does it make you less interested in finger drumming? Do you feel like it just brings a new perspective to it? What is like the nature between those two things?
Yeah, I think it definitely brings a new perspective to it because there's certain patterns that I'm learning on a drum kit which I hadn't, known before. And so now I'm trying to translate some of those beats that I'm learning on a kit to how I can play them in a finger drumming setting.
Are you like, oh, I'm going to set up pads differently now in the way that you arrange things? Or you're like, no, the arrangement is fine the way that they are. And I just am going to learn how to kind of adapt these patterns.
Yeah, I think that the layout for me stays the same most of the time because you develop muscle memory, right? So like there are certain instances where I might have a different layout depending on what the pattern is, but it's kind of just about how I can play that drumming pattern with my fingers rather than with my forelimbs.
Hmm. Yeah, very cool. So let's talk a little bit about motivation. Because you mentioned to me before, kind of beat challenges have been a really great way to kind of commit to a deadline and to just like kind of force yourself through the process. And can you speak a little bit more on that?
So when I first started posting videos online, obviously there were a lot of practice videos and stuff, and then I started seeing this thing that people were doing called January. There's also Beattober, which is pretty much the same thing, right? So it's a 30-day beat challenge where every single day you create something new, you finish it, and then you upload it. So it doesn't have to be finger drumming, right? Like it could be anything, like any beat video or even just a beat that you upload on SoundCloud. The idea is that you just stick to the 30 days. So it's kind of forming that habit. And I started doing that every January and I did it for 5 years. I haven't done it in a couple of years now, but I did it for 5 years in a row every January doing a 30-day beat challenge. Um, and I feel like it really, really helped me to understand workflow and being able to create every day and sticking to deadlines, as well as just not being a perfectionist about your ideas. So having an idea and just kind of getting it to a point where it's good enough and being confident enough to just put that out. So that's kind of going back to that point I was talking about earlier about having a project and uh, being able to translate different parts of it and stuff. Because it is kind of like storytelling with beats, isn't it? With music. So yeah, I really recommend doing 30-day beat challenge.
Right on. So yeah, what have you created anything like that that's maybe less like public facing, like in your own kind of development that's helped you like develop any particular thing that you're working on, whether it's finger drumming or other aspects of production?
You mean like another way of doing a challenge or something?
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe it's not a challenge per se, right? But maybe there's a way that you structure things that you do or habits that you have that contribute to the development of something that you're focused on at the time.
Yeah, I have calendars and lists. I have a lot of them because deadlines and just completing stuff is something that I've always struggled with ever since I was at school. Like I was just I was that person who just like never did their homework, never finished anything. And so I've had to kind of put in place certain strategies to help me be able to meet deadlines and stuff, especially if I'm doing brand partnerships or I have certain tracks and demos that need to be submitted by a certain date. I have like a whiteboard in my studio where it's like literally just there. So if I look over from my desk, it's just to the right. And every month I write in all the stuff. And so I can like cross things out and color code it. So, you know, things in red are things that have to be done by this time,
Hmm.
as well as my phone calendar. And I've got reminder lists and loads of note app, like notes in my note app and stuff like that. I have to do that because if I don't, then
Yeah.
I just would never get anything done.
Well, so it sounds like it gets pretty granular. So you think about like when you wake up on a particular day, you know that like these are the things that I would like to do today.
Yeah. I kind of do, I guess, time blocking because I also kind of try and focus on maybe just one main task per day. Sometimes I might have to like switch between different tasks because I find it quite hard to like just focus on one thing. So I might have like three different projects that I'll kind of flip between on that day. But generally, I kind of try and finish like one task a day.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is really cool and interesting because I think, at least I know for me myself, right? I've experienced that piece where like I've gotten to a place where I've come to understand for myself that one substantial like creative task at least is a lot in one day, you know? And I think when I was
Yeah.
first starting, my expectation was often like, I'll do three, you know, or maybe even more. And I think I've just come to learn that that's just not really, you may be able to do that one day, but the likelihood that you can maintain that several days in a row, weeks in a row, et cetera, it's really low in my experience.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Did you have a similar experience to that, or did you just kind of know like one is enough?
No, totally that as well. Like sometimes I plan to do more than one thing a day. And like you said, like, you know, I might be able to do it as one off, but trying to do that consistently is actually really difficult. Because even though it's just creative work and like maybe I'm just sitting at a desk at my computer or whatever, it's still exhausting. Like there's only so much kind of creativity that you can pull out of yourself in a day. So I think it's quite important not to try and force it too much because you just end up burnt out.